don't even know how to introduce this movie because there's nothing I could really open with that would properly do this justice.
No. No, there's not much. I mean, how many people have opened a podcast about this movie doing Jack Nicholson's line from when he kills Bruce Wayne's parents?
Exactly what I didn't want to do.
I've got something that could be a little bit of an interesting opening, a little bit of a hot take, but this movie isn't that great of a Batman movie.
We're gonna talk about that because I think years removed from it have made it very Returns especially has made this movie and its relationship to Batman really strange.
Mm-hmm. You know what? Don't get me wrong, I still enjoy it, but it's I would even say it's not that great a movie. But that's me.
The thing is, hold on. It's funny watching this movie now with the context of there's been how many on-screen Batman have there been? There's been 8, 6,
7 or 8.
So Keaton, Kilmer, Clooney, Bale, Affleck,
and then what's his fucking face? Yeah, so
Pattinson, kid from Gotham. If
we're not counting that, don't you? No.
I'm not saying that we should. I'm saying
if you want to count Jorah Mormont in Titan season 2 as a live-action Bruce Wayne.
Sure. Okay, if we just keep it to movies, what did we say? 7?
6.
6.
So with that context, this movie is buck wild to watch. Because, there is a scene where Batman straight up pulls out 2 machine guns in his car.
Yeah.
And I'm
it's funny because the precedent, everyone got really upset with Batman vs Superman for so Batman's just a murderer now. I was like, look, when it comes to movies, Batman has had no regard for human life, even in the movies where he's like, I don't kill people. I'm like, bitch, you've killed a lot of people.
He's almost a murderer.
That's a problem with Batman in general, though, is the cognitive dissonance Bruce needs to have to run people over with the Batmobile and then just look at them and be like, they'll live. They'll be fine.
Well, I mean, I don't think there's any cognitive dissonance in the world that could explain dropping 2 bombs from an armored vehicle that blows up a chemical company. Filled with thugs.
He also throws lots of humans off of high things.
Yes.
Yes. I was gonna say in Dark Knight Rises, there's no way around it. He absolutely kills Talia because his solution to it is I'll just rain missiles at her vehicle and she'll just drive off the edge.
Well, again, that's the thing. The Nolan movies really like to point out the whole "I don't kill" rule, but they're the worst offenders. I feel like among the worst offenders.
That first one, he's like, I don't kill, but I don't have to save you. I'm like, that's not much better.
No.
That's still killing.
Also, and the death he's condemning him to is to be mangled in a train that's going to crash through a series of buildings.
Yeah, and that doesn't 100% guarantee he's going to die either. That's the thing.
Yeah. He's a vegetable and he's like, I hate you so much.
That's the best case scenario where he's not just sludge.
He's just terrible amputations. Oh god, I have part of an arm.
And then Dark Knight, he kills Harvey. Fucking pushes him off a roof.
Yeah,
he kills Harvey.
It was a situation where it was either or. He couldn't really find a nice medium ground there.
Also, and then when Catwoman blows Bane away, Bruce doesn't even blink. He's like, well, that's all taken care of now. My tormentor for an entire year or so just got fucking shit canned by a cannon on my vehicle, and I'm not going to react to it.
Michael
Keaton things to do
in this movie is I don't know how to describe what he's doing, but it's
let's start. You know what? That's a good place to start. Let's talk about Michael Keaton as Batman, and let's fucking unpack all the weirdness that comes with that.
Well, here's the thing. There's a psychopath level of normality to him.
Yeah.
Where he's he literally drops people off buildings, and then the next scene is he's like a sitcom dad. Like,
Yeah.
He drops one
Yeah.
something, and the next scene, he's like unsure of like what to
Mhm.
say when an attractive woman comes his way. And he's incredibly weird and like very like rich guy eccentric. He's nowhere near the typical Bruce Wayne we see, which is like he knows he
Mhm.
has money, he flaunts that he has money, and he's very confident. And this Bruce Wayne is like very like squirrely, I guess.
Mhm.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I feel like the direction he got is you're a rich man, and that's it. Like he didn't really have any other type of motivation for
Mhm.
being Bruce Wayne based on the way Tim Burton directed him. Like, don't get me wrong, like I like his interpretation of Bruce Wayne because it feels like someone who is kind of a fucking sociopath who's trying to hide it like
yes.
I
as
mean,
best he can.
you wanna know who he feels like to me watching this, and thinking real hard about it? He feels like Tim Burton to me.
Yeah,
Uh, he
yeah.
feels a lot like Tim Burton, just in terms of his mannerisms and how socially awkward he is.
Yes, and
Um
his weird fucking house.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, it just it
Yeah.
they don't really go into like how he's rich either. And that was
No.
that's something, that became a bigger issue or a bigger part of later Batman movies and even in Batman comics, but it's
Mhm.
they don't even imply that like his family was rich. It's just like, yeah, he's just a rich guy.
You know what's
And
interesting about you saying that is there's a point in the movie where Joker doesn't recognize Bruce Wayne. Like,
yeah,
it's very strange to think about. Like, he's like, "Oh, it's Bruce Wayne." I'm like, "How would you not know it's Bruce Wayne?"
Which is funny because when you compare that to the Nolan trilogy, like every time he shows his face in the day, like during the day, people are like, "Oh, hey, Bruce Wayne, one of the
yeah,
richest men in the world."
yeah,
Nobody knows
fa-
who he is, though, also in this movie. That's an important thing
Yeah,
to
it's
yeah.
so
point
weird to
out.
watch.
Knox
Oh,
and Vale do, and that's it.
well,
Well, even then, they
no,
have to
Vicky Vale
point.
doesn't initially
Yeah.
though. Yeah,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
like,
he
and
has to be like, "Yeah, I'm Bruce Wayne," and then they're like, "Bruce Wayne."
right, yeah. I wonder if they were trying to go for like kind of a Howard Hughes-esque vibe to him.
Maybe
Like,
I could
like
see
where
that.
he's this insane shut in who just every once in a while throws these like ridiculous lavish parties.
yeah,
you could read
Mhm.
him as someone who never leaves the house, honestly.
well, it's
Yeah.
I don't think that's that far off, honestly.
I mean, his idea of a dinner date is to sit 40 feet away from the person he's on on a date
I
with.
feel like that was Alfred, though. I think Alfred was like, "I'm going to put them at the table, and I'm going to see if they notice how far away they are."
Well, my big question is like, so they're having some sort of charity party where they have a bucket for donation, but then they have actual gambling happening. Like, where is this money going to? Like, are the people expected to give their money back to charity when they win? I was very confused by that aspect of the storyline.
Also, during that whole sequence, there's like elected officials and
Hmm.
police and like
Hmm.
lawyers and stuff, and like none of them have the air about them that they have any professional titles whatsoever. Like
Mm-mm.
when Gordon's fucking gambling and someone's like, "Hey, come here," he's like, "Okay, hold on," throws the dice again, is like BRB, and has no sense of urgency.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that and it doesn't help that Gordon is also portrayed by a 70-year-old man.
Who
Like,
gets
that's
more oafish and stupid as the series goes on.
and he wears a
Um,
tuxedo at all times. Like,
yes.
yeah, that's what the fuck, Tim Burton? Like, did you just look at a cover to Batman that happened to have some characters on it and be like, "Yeah, I get it. I'm good."
That's a Jim Gordon. I know that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's
So
uh,
yeah, Keaton's fucking Bruce Wayne is extremely strange, and
Yeah.
as I said, like seems to be an insane person who's trying to hide it very poorly. But man, him in the Batman suit, like I don't know what it is, but you're just like, man, you're fucking cool.
Well, it's like
yeah.
there
Yeah.
was a couple shots where I felt like it looked a little rubbery. I was like, "Oh, this isn't."
Oh, there's no way around some of the
Mhm.
the rubbery nature of it
Yeah.
now. Especially when they close up
Yeah.
on that fucking cow, you're like,
Yeah,
And they
there are
turn his
times where
head.
if you're looking for it, you can see like, wow, that looks not good. That looks too big for his head, or that looks too small. That's clearly a stunt man. Um, in the scene with the guy with the swords. Um,
Well,
mm,
there were a couple scenes in it where like he throws a kick at somebody and most of the time it's like, okay, that kick did what it was supposed to do, but there was once or twice where he threw a kick and it's like, oh, that's what would happen if Michael Keaton tried to kick somebody like that. Because it looks like the most ineffective and just like somebody trying to kick a rock who like maybe weighs 20 pounds. Just like,
I love the first kick he gives that dude in the rooftop in the first 5 minutes, because that is like, it's a sternum shattering thrust kick that sends this guy like 15 feet through a wooden door. I'm like, that guy's
Yes.
dead. Like,
Yes. Yes. Oh yeah, that was when Mickey Rourke's cousin was the other tough guy in there. Like whoever that other dude was who was the bigger scumbag looked exactly like Mickey Rourke to me. Just talking about the opening of this movie, like that opening music, like
Yeah.
the minute I heard that, I'm like, oh God, I'm like 10, whatever age I was when I first saw this, because this movie came out in 89. I would have been 11. You guys would have been nothing. You would have.
I was 3 years old.
Okay.
I wasn't even sperm. Not
Yeah.
even. Yeah. Just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that opening music, and I was just like, oh,
Mhm.
oh, now I remember. Like it just that is peak Danny Elfman. Like it's so good. It's
Yes,
so goddamn
it's
good.
some of the. I think it's like, it is an era where he is at his best. I don't think he's been particularly good the last decade and a half or so. Because everything just starts to sound samey. But yeah, this is like, it's so iconic. He's like, he went to rescore Justice League. He was like, why would I bother making something new?
I would say when he isn't trying there, because I think there's Danny Elfman actually trying to do good work, and then there's Tim Burton walks into the room. He's like, "Don't try on this one."
Yeah. Just shit something out.
I need you to phone it in there, Danny.
He's like, I did it, so it's all right if you do it. But we'll make a movie about a woman who does painting, and then you can actually do work on that one. So yeah, like
with
no, that's
Oh, okay. I was gonna say with the opening of this movie, I have to give Tim Burton credit. He went with a very bold choice to not show Batman's origin in the beginning of the movie. Like you get the impression that he might be doing that, just like, okay, he's modernized it a bit, but then it's like, oh no, there's Batman. Okay, cool. We're not gonna do with all that.
Yeah, he's
a fully realized character when we meet him. And I'm glad they only spend maybe 5 minutes on his parents being shot. It's in my head, it is like, it's much quicker. It's just 2 shots of like 2 grown-ups going, oh, and then falling over.
Pretty much.
No, it's like it's a shot for shot recreation of I can't remember if it's Year One or if it's TDKR. One of the two. I mean, you see it in both of them, but one of them is more long and it focuses more on the shots, and it's basically that. But after that, it's gone. It's in and it's out. We see the little thing of young Jack Napier, which is a choice that they made.
Is he French? Napier.
Also, isn't it Bruce Wayne, the kid Bruce Wayne, wearing like this ridiculous little costume too?
Yeah.
Like,
he
looks like a little newspaper boy.
Yes.
Yeah.
He looks like a newsie. Yeah.
They made choices with this movie, and that's the thing that I probably enjoyed the most. Is the choices are really big, and it's like you're either with it or you're not, and I appreciate that.
The thing about Michael Keaton's like all the costumes, but Michael Keaton in particular, about his costumes in this movie, is he looks like my dad from in the 90s. It's so weird.
I think he looks like a lot of people's dads in the 90s, though. I don't think it's just.
It's
just
so
yours.
funny. The whole movie is very dated, but it's like it works so well.
Yeah,
you know,
but again,
I wouldn't
like
say it's dated because like the time it's supposed to take place in is completely nebulous.
Yeah,
because it's like this weird like 30s 40s inspired landscape. It doesn't feel like it at all.
Well, it's all that stuff, but like little chunks of 80s like sprinkled in there. So
you mean like Vicky Vale's car?
Yes.
Or all the prints. Or all
cars,
the prints.
All of the prints. Well, like Joker's henchmen are like the most 80s henchmen.
Hold up.
They walk around boomboxes.
I have to talk about the henchmen really quick because I am obsessed with them.
They're so
they all look like creative characters. First of all,
Well, no, first of all,
Yes.
they all like to dress to be male strippers. Like they all have the fucking
Yes.
hat, sunglasses, and these weird jackets. Also, each of them seems to be hired because they're like video game characters. Like that guy's got a sword, that guy's got brass knuckles, that guy is the big burly guy. This guy does flips. Bob's got a
Right.
charisma stat of 10. Yeah, they're all these ridiculous gimmicky guys who show up for like the sword guy. He's like rah 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 rah.
They are also seemingly on board for all of Joker's shenanigans, like
Mhm.
immediately. Like
Yeah.
they're dancing with him on a float at one point.
Yep. Yeah, the one guy has like his I forget what it is, like it's a Tommy gun or something that he's using as like a kind of cane as he dances on the float, because I think that's the point where Vicky Vale is looking at them through a camera.
Like they're the most ridiculous human beings on Earth at
Yes.
any period of time.
Yep. Yeah. And they're also not very smart, like the guy who decided to jump at Batman while they were in the bell tower and just goes right through the wood.
He probably could have saved him, honestly.
There's
Yeah,
a lot of
probably.
people he could have saved.
One of the thugs or one of the henchmen are taken out by my favorite gadget in the movie because you only see it once. It's that guy like jump kicks him, right? Like he jumps at Batman and then Batman
with knives on his feet.
Yes, and then like deploys this ridiculous. I don't even know what to call it. It's like this is gonna hit you in the balls, and
I don't
like this quick release knuckle attachment.
I don't even know if it was supposed to hit him in the balls. I think it was supposed to like deflect his foot, which is the
And
most.
instead, he uses it to just crush the guy's fucking torso.
Yeah. It's like there's no rhyme or reason to the things that Batman has other than when it needs to look good. Like, oh, he needs this one thing
Yeah.
that probably costs like $3 million in 1989 money that will launch a rope in 2 different directions. And that's it. That's the
Right.
only thing it does. Like,
It's it's a problem that I sometimes have with the James Bond movies where the gadgets will be too specific to the situation that they're in. Where it's just like, where else would you ever use that outside of this exact situation?
Exactly.
And it always kind of takes you out of it just a little bit.
The part where he
yeah.
has the grappling hook and he asks Vicky Vale how much she weighs is like
I did like that.
that is so funny because like he what was his plan? Was it he just goes up?
Okay, this
How much
goes
you weigh?
hand in hand with something else I noticed about this movie. Like Batman is super willing to just get his ass kicked or pretend he's been killed by bullets or like feign death. He's always pretending to be hurt.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that
He's-
part
he-
of martial
yeah.
arts? Is knowing when to play dead?
Well, no, I think it's that he went to improv,
okay.
and he knows yes and.
Well, it's some of that, like, I feel is Tim Burton was trying to be like, oh, well, I want this to be somewhat realistic. That's why he was like asking Vicky Vale how much she weighs. And that's why he's like faking death so he can come back to life, quote unquote, and have his mythos grow. But
Sure.
they don't explain that for a single solitary second in the movie. It's just like, how much do you weigh? Because this bat rope says no fat chicks on it.
Well, also, like in the beginning of the movie, he just walks into a hail of gunfire and throws himself to the ground. I'm like, all right, what was your end game there? Because you're just gonna pop up in a second.
Yeah, well, that's where this is also confusing because like he's established, has all these toys that he uses, but the police don't know who he is or if he's even real. Most of the public of Gotham thinks he's a myth. Like it's like they were trying to tell a year one story, but they didn't really want to tell a year one story because they wanted to have all of the cool stuff.
Yeah, they wanted the killing joke and stuff like that. Like that's
Yeah.
they wanted.
Yeah, basically, like they wanted that moment right before Batman is going to like mayoral functions and like showing up at parties or whatever. But I don't know if they really depicted it well because it does feel like, okay, well, where in the timeline is this? And it feels kind of inconsistent.
And, I mean, that could also be a wider issue with Warner Brothers DC, where they don't know what they're doing, as it continues to show a lot of times with their comic adaptations.
Yes, we also have to think of this in terms of it's 1989.
Yeah.
The Batman that exists before this is a very specific sliver of pop entertainment.
And
Mhm.
and I think I've heard Danny O'Neill talk about it, where he was like, "That was Batman for a while. Like people didn't like Adam
Mhm.
West was Batman,
Yep.
and
Well,
that's
not
what
just
people thought
him.
Batman was."
Yeah, not just him though. The serials, the old
Yeah,
TV serials.
where he fought the Japanese and fair and slick.
Mhm, mhm,
Mhm.
He fought the Yellow Menace.
Oh,
mhm. Yeah, that
God.
stuff. Like that was Batman for a very long
Yeah,
time. That was a defining feature of Batman. So I kind of have to give them some slack, but at the same time, something I do want to point out is, so this is John Peters and Peter Guber who produced this movie. If you don't know who they are, people who are listening to this, look them up. I feel like we all know, but just for the sake of argument, is
Sure.
anybody completely unaware of who they are?
hold on.
That would be
I know,
me.
I know John Peters. The other guy I'm not too familiar with.
I
Well,
know the
they're
name
both
Peters, but I don't know that
they're
goober
they're
dude.
partners in crime, basically. But one of them is the guy
So
with
Peters
the
has an accomplice.
Wait,
Okay.
is
Yeah.
John Peters the dude who wanted the giant spider in the Superman movie?
Yep.
Oh,
He's
John
the guy who was
Peters.
obsessed with the giant
okay.
spider.
John
Yes.
Peters is the guy that Christopher Nolan said he is never to step foot on these fucking sets.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
He was
And
Okay.
a former hairdresser.
they
Okay.
produced a lot of stuff in the 80s. Some of it good, some of it not as good. But they're all over that period of filmmaking. And like John Peters was a big producer, I guess, of the early attempts to do Sandman, among
Oh
other
no.
things.
Oh
Oh,
no.
I really wish that movie got made just so we could talk about it.
You know what we need is Sandman to show his dick. That would
Sandman-
really humanize him.
Sandman needs
Oh,
a
well,
hang dong. All
Okay,
right.
so the same year as this, John Peters produced Tango and Cash.
Okay.
Yeah, and the year before he produced Caddyshack 2. He also produced
Oh
Inner
no.
Space, The Witches of
Hey.
Eastwick.
He did
Oh,
Youngblood.
wow.
Mm,
Anyone cares
Okay.
about that?
Youngblood? What?
Holy shit! He produced The Color Purple.
Yep,
Oh no.
he's
Not
got
much
one of
better.
those careers. Um,
So he kind of trips over his own dick sometimes into good stuff, and it's
Mhm.
just like, oh, whatever. Okay, here's the money.
yeah.
Kevin Smith said it best. You just fail upward.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So yeah, like
that's-
the producers are part of this, and then Tim Burton's name isn't on the screenplay of this at all. The credited guys are Sam Hamm and Warren Guerin.
Sam
Ham?
Ham.
Sam.
That's a real
Sam
fucking
Ham.
name.
Sam Hamm sounds like a fake name. It sounds like a pseudonym.
My name
Um,
is Sam.
Damn
Oh, no.
Ham.
Sam Hamm only produced. Okay, Sam Hamm wrote Batman, Batman Returns, Mantis, Monkey Bone, an episode of Masters of Horror, and Never Cry Wolf from 1983.
Wait, does he know Speedweed? That's the most important question.
He might.
I
He
wonder
might.
if he was responsible for the invisible dinosaur.
Maybe.
I hope
That's
so.
from Mantis. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, to get out of the weeds of the production and whatnot, where were we? The beginning of Batman.
Mhm.
And
Yeah. Yeah, that stuff was just important because there are points in this where I feel like Tim Burton is omnipresent and it's just like, oh, that's Tim
Mhm.
Burton as fuck. And then there are other moments which feel like nothing Tim Burton would ever have his hands on. And it's like, that was the day where Tim Burton did not care at all about what was going on and somebody else was in charge. He
well-
said cut and go, but I
yeah,
don't
I mean,
know.
I don't think it's a matter of him not caring. I think it's a matter of he got overruled because he still wasn't a big enough name yet
Sure.
to really. Because I mean, arguably, this movie is what made Tim Burton a household name.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it definitely did. Yeah.
This movie was so huge. Like, I can remember
Mhm.
seeing it like 3 times when I was a kid because it's just like, well, it's the only thing out there other than old Superman movies, which I mean, in the grand scheme of things, weren't that old at that point to me, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, it Like, I feel like all of the, like, human interactions, Tim Burton had nothing to do with because they are so far outside of what he would do with people talking to each other, like, the
Yeah.
Knox and Vicky Vale's relationship and just
Mhm.
anything outside of Bruce Wayne and Vicky feels like nothing Tim Burton had anything to do with.
Right. Well, anything that wasn't like weird people talking
Mhm,
to each other.
mhm.
Like I think there's a reason why Bruce and uh I don't know what to call him because to me he's not really the Joker, but I guess I'll call him the Joker. The way that they are, I feel like those are both parts of Tim Burton. They are him. They're avatars of him to some degree. Um,
I
and I think that's very obvious in the
I
way that he plays them, the fact that they get so much more screen time and they're way more well thought out than every other character in the film.
Here's my
Um,
theory. Tim Burton, prior to not prior to directing this film, had never
mhm.
spoken to another human being before.
Probably not.
Well, he
Here's
certainly
the
never read
thing,
a Batman
Hunter.
comic.
No.
Yeah.
No, definitely
No.
not. Hunter,
Well,
you're
it's
probably 100% correct. Like he talked to other goth kids and
Yes.
and
like
he's
Hunter
like
said, he
very much
didn't
an
talk to
art guy.
people. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Those aren't people. So
Wow.
like he talked to other people like him, people who like don't know how to talk to other human beings, but yeah, 100%. He did not have casual conversations with anybody when they weren't filming. I would almost guarantee that.
Well, I would go
Uh,
one step further with the Joker and say they just gave Jack Nicholson like an amount of cocaine every time he was on set and just said, "Just be yourself, Jack."
Probably. Yeah,
Like, and
probably.
Act
just
act this hard.
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Like, give us a 10 today, Jack. All right, give us a 6. All right,
Mhm.
here's your 8 ball. Here you go. Go have fun. Like, it just it it was definitely interpretation of the Joker, but man, like, I mean, we might as well talk about his interpretation of the Joker, but man, it did not feel like Jack Nicholson understood what the Joker actually was
Uh,
one bit.
No.
see, here's the thing. I I think you're right, but I also think like they were. I know Tim Burton has probably never read a Batman comic in his life. That's pretty clear.
He
But
read The Dark Knight Returns. We know that. Other than
that's very true.
outside of that, I don't know.
Anyways, I, I think he accidentally almost lands on the Joker.
Almost. Yes, that is a
He
very good way to put it.
half the time I think he gets it very right. Half the time I think he gets it very wrong.
Yes.
Yeah, to some detrimental. But again, I think it's the same with Batman. And the parts of it that he gets wrong, and this is where I don't disagree with what Eric opened with, but I kind of have to like add some things to it. The parts where he adds himself in, it's the parts of him that I actually think fit both characters
I
more
think
so with Batman. Um, but they kind of don't mesh terribly with a version of Batman. It's just when we've seen other Batmans that are just far more accurate and far closer to the perceptions that we have of the characters, is people with some significant knowledge of the characters. Uh, I think it sticks out to us a lot.
it,
The parts
it,
where it's like, where did that come from? Why is that there?
Yeah.
I do I think he's very entertaining.
Oh, he
Despite
is.
Mhm.
not
100%.
being
Oh, he's
100%
magnetic. You
accurate.
can't take your eyes off him when he's on screen. This is one
Oh
like
yeah,
I'm gonna talk about Jack Palance real quick because he's only in the movie for about 6 minutes.
Yes.
But like,
yeah.
God, he is a fucking force of nature of this. He
I
shows up
was
and he's just like, oh, just fucking just taking whole scenes from people.
I was so happy I forgot he was in it. Cause I was like, wait, who's the crime? Oh my god, it's Jack Palance. And just
You're my number one guy.
He's just big arms talking to everyone. He's always got this big. He's too like the suit's too small. He's fucking bursting out of it. Even his death is ridiculous. He takes forever to
yes.
die. It involves Jack Nicholson dancing around a fucking room.
Yep.
Yeah.
But Nicholson is like this fucking ball of energy, and like every scene he's in, you're like, I can't like you're immediately the center of the screen, and I can't take my eyes off you because you're always doing something fucking ridiculous.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's where like I have a hard time making everything come together in my head on his interpretation of the Joker. Like there are, like Hunter was saying, like there are aspects of it that are very much the Joker that he accidentally landed on it, but other
Mhm.
parts I'm just like, this is what Jack Nicholson thinks crazy people are like. Like
Yes.
this is
Uh-huh.
just his
And
interpretation
Jack,
of a
Jack,
crazy person.
it borderlines on insensitive.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah.
Parts of it,
Uh,
yeah.
did
But
you know
like
Jack Nicholson loves this performance so much there was a period of time where he watched it every night? That's a true story.
No, he's thinking about the coke that he did that day,
Yes.
as
Well,
Eric has suggested.
well, he's also thinking about how much money he's making off of the back end, because if I remember
Mhm.
correctly,
Yeah.
he didn't take that big a paycheck from this movie because he wanted back end payments on this movie, and he made the
Yeah.
right choice there because
Yeah.
He, mhm. He's also thinking about fucking over Robin Williams, which is a thing that he
that too.
did in taking this movie. And also, side note, watching this, there are moments where his delivery is kind of similar to Robin Williams, and it just made me think of the movie where Robin Williams got to play this character. And I don't want to say it would have been better because I don't know. I can't say for sure, but like I want it. I want to go to the other universe where he did get to play Joker, because that would have been fascinating.
Yeah, I think he could have pulled it off, and I honestly think he would have done a more comic accurate job, because I
Mhm.
know that Robin Williams was a big comic fan, because I heard stories about him like being seen at local comic stores when he was living in the California
Oh,
area.
hell yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And real quick on Jack Nicholson's pay for the movie, he only took 6 million for it, but the contract he signed included a stipulation that he would earn percentage on the film's total earnings, including sales of the film's merchandise. He
Wow.
Mm.
he ended up earning more than 50 million for the role, which is
That's
103 million in
Yeah, he
2020
got
money.
he got Star Wars money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
because that movie, I can't remember where I saw this information, so it could be completely wrong. But Warner Brothers apparently has never made a movie this successful since. I don't know where that. But in terms of like numbers and inflation, they
Shit.
still haven't made a movie that matched this one in
Yeah, 2020 money it
40
made
years.
it made it 2020 money it made 847 million.
I would argue
Holy
most of
shit.
Yeah.
most of TPZ's like history is based upon the fact that this happened.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
No, this is a turning point movie. Like the next 10, 15 years of comic book movies, but just movies in general, like they trace something back to this movie. I mean, we've talked a lot about the movies that came out immediately after this, mostly in connection to Darkman, but just in general. Um, I want the pink elephant. Um, where were we?
Talking about Jack Nicholson.
Yeah. Who's doing a lot in this film.
Yeah.
That's-
I do like his origin in this movie.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't hate it.
Because like
that's. I mean,
I
that's
think that
totally.
is the mostly intact.
What? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you were slowing down there. No, it was 100% the not it's Killing Joke origin.
It's
Like,
similar, yeah.
no,
Yeah.
it is. Like, I
I
mean,
mean, it
outside of
is.
like the minor contrivances of it not being like the gang and him having to wear like the red
Mhm.
helmet, but yeah, it's totally the Killing Joke
Yeah.
origin.
I mean, yeah, it is in broad strokes, yes. I'm just saying it's not the comedian getting loped into it hard on his luck. Like it's a very different character, and I don't mind the Joker already being a criminal before even turning into the Joker. I actually have. I feel like Stephen King's problem with The Shining, for me, is worse here. Actually, I feel like he's already a little bit too crazy at the beginning, and they do point that out, which I guess goes somewhere. but it does bother me a little bit that they say he's already psychotic. He's already a little bit unhinged. To me, that's one of those things for me where what's interesting about the Joker is that he wasn't always that. That wasn't a core part of his being before becoming the Joker. That's one of the things that's interesting to me about the Joker is that he could be anyone, just a random dude. And so yeah, like this origin is kind of, but I think it ultimately does work for the movie. I think the part that doesn't work is the fact that he killed Bruce's parents, and that's been done
the
to
weirdest.
death.
That's the weirdest change. It makes it too personal because then when Bruce like finally corners him, he just like there's no nuance to it. He's like, I'm just gonna beat the shit out of you.
Yes.
Also,
right.
How old is Jack Napier then? Because like,
it looks like Bruce is beating up a 65-year-old man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, I'm okay with that. No, that is a really odd choice, but it would they would have to. Yeah, I don't know. There's no real way to explain that other than to say like that Bruce is beating up like a 70-year-old. Yeah, no, that doesn't.
Yeah,
that doesn't Gronk very well.
I mean,
I don't know. It in a very operatic way, it makes sense, and in a very like Tim Burton way, I can understand why they would do it that way. But it's just like,
it feels on the nose now. It feels very on the nose at this point. And again,
and they make it worse by forever because they just pivot like they retcon it to Two-Face. I'm like, oh, that just you've made it worse.
Yeah.
Well, if we decide to do those movies sometime very soon, definitively we'll talk about it then.
We should.
But there's an argument to be made that the Schumacher movies are not entirely in the same continuity.
I would say the Schumacher movies are the Batman movies that exist within the world of the Tim Burton Batman films. Kind of
That's
like
a great explanation, actually.
I love that idea.
Kind of like how Kill Bill and whatnot is the movie that exists within the realm of the wider Tarantino universe. Like how there's that weird disconnect that there's like these are the movies that exist in this world and this is the real world of the Tarantino universe. So I just thought of that and I'm going with it. That is now officially canon. That is what Warner Brothers went with.
I support this. This wholeheartedly. It explains why they spend so much time showing costumes from the previous two movies. Totally.
Yeah. And it would kind of work to be like, oh well, Batman has to be Bruce Wayne because he's the richest man in the world. So they even though it would just be like, haha, yeah, it's Bruce Wayne. But I really like this idea.
No, here's the thing, Eric. The more I think about it, it explains why the Bruce Waynes in those later two movies are. I'm not going to say they're more handsome than Michael Keaton because that sounds mean. But they're more traditionally handsome. They're more like beefcake handsome, I guess, to put it mildly. They're not Michael Keaton, who looks like just a dude. Like Michael Keaton could be a guest host on this podcast.
I would love that. I want to talk to Michael Keaton.
Well, the other thing is like Michael Keaton isn't what you traditionally would expect out of Batman because there's a point where like I'm trying to remember where it is in the movie, but like he's holding the Joker up by his lapels. He puts him down, and the Joker is easily a foot taller than Batman.
Yes.
Like, what the fuck is going on here? Why would you choose somebody who's like 5'10"?
Yeah, it's a baffling decision, honestly. That's why I think Robin Williams was like 6'2" or something. So never mind. Like yeah, he's like insanely tall, much taller than most people might think. But I think he was a better physical actor than Jack Nicholson. Not that Jack Nicholson's a slump. But like I think that he could have played it so that you wouldn't think he was 6 feet tall. Again, as I said, most people don't think of him as being that tall. Like that might have been better. I think Keaton's performance came through, and that's why a lot of us have accepted it. And his performance doesn't bother me at this point. But if I'm looking back now, I can actually completely understand why there was like that original version of fan outrage when he got announced, because he's not the drawings of Batman up until that point or since.
No.
Well, and I mean, as we all know, there's always fan outrage when anything involving any superhero movie is announced at this point. So
yeah, we should remind people that every time there's a Batman cast,
yes,
someone has one group somewhere has a huge problem with it.
Yeah.
Robert
Like
Pattinson
can't act, guys.
Yeah, he's too skinny. He's a soy boy.
Heath Ledger is going to be the worst Joker ever. Look what we got. Yeah. Speaking of interesting casting that I really would have liked to have seen go to fruition, Billy D as Harvey Dent I thought was a great choice, and I would have loved to have seen his version of Two-Face.
That goes with your theory, because they would whitewash him in the movies.
Yeah, I like, and I forgot that like Billy D. Williams actually had a bigger role than I remembered. Like my memory of this movie was like he's there for like 5 minutes and he's gone, but he's actually around a bit more than I thought in this movie.
Yeah.
I also remember that. I thought it was like him just showing up and be like, "Oh, look, we got Harvey Dent." No, he's in the movie. Like,
hello,
I know
Harvey Dent. Camera.
Yeah, I know he was supposed to be in Returns, and I can't remember the reason why he wasn't. Well, I'll look into it, because the plan is to do Returns soon.
I'd be okay with that.
I think I might actually do some research in between, because I want to know. But my guess is that the script was probably just jam-packed full of people, because Returns is a much bigger principal cast. There's a lot of time spent on Max Schreck in that movie.
Well, and as I said earlier, this movie earned in 2020 money $847 million. So yeah, I can understand why, like with Returns, they're like, all right, like how much do you want? Who do you want in it? Like, do what you will.
Yeah.
Let me see what else I have in my notes here, because I mean, there was a certain point where I just stopped taking notes because I'm like, I just need the movie to wash over me. Oh, there was a point where they were talking about how the parade wasn't going to go on, and they're like, yeah, this is going to cost us $250,000, which I was just like, that's adorable. That's adorable. That $250,000.
He's like, that's like $200,000 per balloon or something like that. Also, I love that sequence because the mayor of Gotham is like, I'm the mayor from Jaws today.
I am Ed Koch. That's who that looks like. It looked like they just decided, like, oh, let's get Ed Koch in here. Why not?
Yeah. I'm sure he's not doing anything now.
Yeah, well, he's very dead, if I remember correctly.
Super dead.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about Vicky Vale at all? Because she's weird. She's a weird character.
You mean the character that opens the movie by saying, "I like bats"? That's one of her first lines. One of the first things to come out of her mouth.
Yeah,
I like
bats. She's a secret bat furry, confirmed. So hey, is there a bat character in a Beastars, Hunter?
No, I not that I remember.
Okay.
No, but there's a snake. So
there's a snake.
A Nazi snake.
There's a Fuhrer snake.
He's Goebbels.
So terrible.
I agree with her being weird in this movie because, like, when I was younger, I didn't know who the fuck Vicky Vale was. Now, was she a character in the comics before this movie?
I don't know.
I assume she was, because she's been in every Batman adaptation since, and that can't just be because of this movie. I wouldn't think.
You sure about that?
Maybe. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe this movie had that much of an effect, but I think she's been in every Batman adaptation since, except for maybe the Nolan stuff. Or am I missing? Am I forgetting?
Yeah, she's a character from 1948. So yeah, she's been around for a while. Yeah. But yeah, I don't understand a lot of her. Like she's this well-known and like very famous photographer, and she's going to do some schlub job for a Gotham newspaper, and she's driving what looks like the type of car that like a single dad from 1989 would have.
I want to talk a bit about directly related to her, the Corto Maltese stuff.
Yeah, which they depict as like a
It's a really fucking weird addition.
Well, so the pictures we see,
Because it's
yeah.
Oh, Connor, we've
Yeah,
lost
we
you.
completely lost Connor there.
no, I just waited for the hiccup to go away.
Yeah.
What exactly is the Corto Maltese stuff? Because I'm not as well versed in DC stuff.
It's just
From the Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah, it's that. But like,
it's like a fictional location in Dark Knight Returns that's like about to set off like that version's like a new Cuban Missile Crisis, essentially.
Oh,
right.
okay.
But from the looks of it in this movie, it's like
a Rwanda.
Well, I was gonna say the communist country in Asia near Vietnam. What's that one called?
The one the Killing Fields was based around and all that. Yeah, okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that one where like something like
Myanmar.
Yeah, what was it? Like 50% of their population was dead within like 5 years or something.
Lord,
something like that. Yeah,
but they depict it as like a genocide situation on that scale because it's just pictures of dead bodies. From what I can tell, that's her entire thing, and that's why the Joker's so into it later on. Again, that feels like a very Joker thing to me, that he would be like super into pictures of dead bodies.
But they never give you that implication based on the character development we have with the Joker, because we get very surface level with him. He's into pretty dames, and that's really about it. And that's the Jack Nicholson part of him coming out, I think. Like, if he was like, I love your photography, and like brought up that stuff, I would be like, oh, okay, that seems very Joker. But it's not. Like, it's also
weird for him to pine after a woman like this.
Yeah.
To be so attached and like I must have her. I must, whatever. This, like, reading poetry to her, dancing with her. I'm like, Joker would just drop you off a fucking building. He's not gonna.
Yeah.
A lot of the like character building that they do, it's hidden between other stuff. So like he does say, he says the line, "I want to make art until somebody dies," and then that's like the end of it. Like he doesn't go any further, and he doesn't expand on that. And again, that's a very Joker thing to say. Maybe you want to go a little bit deeper into what you mean by that. That would be
I think the most you get out of it is he's like, I'm the world's first fully functioning homicidal artist. So,
right.
Okay. I didn't know that was something you were aspiring to be.
Is that a thing?
That's great. What does that mean?
In some ways, though, I feel like he was also supposed to be a representation of like the pop art movement that was happening again in the 80s.
Oh yeah.
And that was more what his thing was, not to interpret the Joker. I mean, this is just my counterpoint to what you're saying, Arlen. Like, is that's more what he was about, or his representation was, not an actual deeper look at the Joker. Because once again, I feel like they did the most minimal of research for Batman and Batman-related characters for this movie. They're like, we got the suit, all right, cool.
Yeah.
We've got the Joker, kind of, all right, cool, let's go.
I mean,
it's the jokester, right?
I don't disagree. I'm just saying that's a take that doesn't feel far afield from how I think of the Joker. And it might just be that I have this movie in my head already, so I have a hard time separating it. I've already accepted it. But when I'm looking at the character of the Joker, if that was a brand new take, if that was like the storyline of the next Zack Snyder Joker story, or not Zack Snyder, Scott Snyder, who would ever confuse those two?
Two very different people.
But if that was the new take of a new Joker story, where the Joker suddenly is like, this is the thing that I'm doing in this story. I'm an artist now. I wouldn't reject that concept. That's what I was more saying. Like, it feels in character with the Joker that we've established already. It doesn't feel like something that is being forced into the character of the Joker. It does feel like a natural expansion of the character that we know. It fits with the guy who would poison Girl Scouts with poison Girl Scout cookies. Like it feels akin to that to me. So that's more what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's a perfect encapsulation of the Joker in a broader sense, but it doesn't distract from what my perception of the Joker is and what that character should be. Yeah. Cambodia, by the way, is the country that I'm
That's it.
struggling
Oh, that's right,
to
yeah.
remember.
That's it. Yeah, oh god, yeah, the Dead Kennedys song, "Holiday in Cambodia." What the fuck? Yeah, I'd also like to point out that Vicky Vale's fashion sense is very odd in this movie.
Mhm.
You mean it
Especially,
changes every scene?
well, and especially the quinceanera dress she was wearing at Bruce Wayne's party when she first meets him. Like,
It's a very
what?
special day for her. Leave her alone.
God, what the fuck was she wearing? Like, I
Mhm.
understand, like, women's fashion at the time was very different because when my wife was watching it with me, she's like, "Oh yeah, I can remember having to wear a dress similar to that when I went to a wedding in the
Oh.
80s." I'm like, "Oh god." Like, it's
no.
horrendous. It's horrendous. But yeah,
Yeah.
Connor, like you said, yeah, she has something different on every scene, which I mean makes sense because we
Mhm.
rarely ever see her for an entire day, so we see her for 10 seconds a day essentially.
Right.
That
Yeah,
and
and like the tonal shift of her outfits is kind of jarring sometimes because she has like that plain greenish blue thing she wore during the big action sequence, and like I think a scene or two later or a scene or two before, she has like a fucking beret and giant glasses and like this black and white. She looks dressed like a mime. Like it's
Yeah, that's oh yeah, when Bruce is watching the Joker kill whichever mob boss that is. Yeah, that and man, she moves quick. Like that was something that was weird to me too. Was just like Bruce Wayne's like, yeah, fuck it, I'm gonna bone down. Like I'm whatever. I'm gonna do whatever. Like
it's
it
the
just
most Bruce Wayne thing about him.
I I guess, but I don't know. That was, and maybe this is just my misreading or my interpretation of what I've read of him. But like, I always got the impression he gets labeled as a playboy, but like in the Nolan movies, like he always finds a way out of it, so he can keep that image going, but he doesn't actually seal the deal because I guess Bruce Wayne is actually an incel. So I don't know. It just
I
don't-
actually I really want that movie to happen.
it just
There-
yeah.
Or it's like the Yakuza thing where he's just secretly a virgin, and all he does is flirt.
Yeah, it
Um,
struck me. It struck me as really weird that like that he was so quick to bone down, and Vicky Vale was just like, "Yeah, fuck it, let's do this." And then all of a sudden they're in love with each other. Like that's the other thing that
Yeah,
I'm
that
like,
was weird.
"Oh,
That's how
this
dating
is
works.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, they sleep
Mhm.
together once, and then all of a sudden they're in love." Even
Yeah,
though he like he ignores her for like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, and she's
Well,
like,
that's how
"Man,
you.
what could
That's how you
possibly
get
be going
good,
on? I'll
right,
just
Eric?
ask him."
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. It just go ahead.
Oh god, I lost what I was about to say.
Uh-oh.
And it's gone.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm going based on order of me watching the movie, but the next thing I had on my list was that surgery, quote unquote, place that was some place in the middle of the slums of Gotham. Like how
It looks like he walked like he's like he climbs out of the water and just like walks into the first building he saw in some like fucking gross dump
yeah,
somewhere.
it's like it's next to a 7-Eleven. Like, get me a big gulp before you do this surgery on my face. Like it just it how is there
Mirror and a
anything
big gulp.
like how is there anything sterile in there? How is that how did he survive and not get sepsis? Like what the fuck
I
happened?
think that's the biggest question because like that guy, like first of all, like the wounds he sustains too, like doesn't he have his face like basically shattered, like it's blown apart by that ricocheting bullet, which is jarring, by the way.
It
Mhm.
looks like when I was watching the movie, like I paused it when he was hanging on to Batman's hand. It looks like the bullet like went through his cheeks or like through
Ow.
his jaw. So
Nice.
maybe that's the idea is that like it destroyed his jawbone, and that's why he has that really weird smile because the doctor who was too busy worrying about roller dogs next door was doing surgery.
Yeah, he He should look like
I'm gonna
Dominic
leave the
Cooper
anesthesia on.
in
Help yourself.
Warzone. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to get
Go crazy.
cheese dog. Yeah,
Go crazy.
yeah, I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, and I will admit that Joker reveal is kind of perfect. Not when he like breaks the mirror, but when he
No,
reveals
yeah.
himself to Jack Palance.
Yeah, when he reveals himself to Grissom, it's pretty solid. Also,
Mhm.
if anybody's interested, I did remember the thing that I had to say about Bruce Wayne, which was that, Eric, you're right when it comes to like his public thing, but I've said for years now his greatest weakness is the women when he
He's
is
trim.
dressed as Batman. Like
I think
Catwoman,
House
Talia.
Defended has made several gags about that, where like their Batman, as soon as he sees like an attractive woman, he's like, "You want to know my secret identity?"
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
in this movie, it wasn't even Bruce who revealed it. It was fucking Alfred. Like, what the fuck are you doing? You were the worst butler / keeper of my secret ever. Like, oh, Master Bruce, Vicky's here. Let me bring you down to the cave.
In his defense, this also
Yeah.
seems like an Alfred who's just fucking done with Bruce's shit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, that's something I actually liked. Like, I really liked the scene where he's like, "I'm not one for mourning over old friends or their children." Like this very serious moment in the middle of all of the insanity that is the rest of this movie. And then, like, is it the next scene that he's in where he lets Vicky into the Batcave? He's a man on a mission in this movie. He has intentions.
I love when Bruce is at the party and he's just leaving shit everywhere, and Alfred is like a ninja coming right behind him to pick it back up.
Yeah, he sticks the pen in that weird orb plant thing, and like all of a sudden, Alfred is there to grab it, and the comically like bad, like, oh, he's going to drop his glass, like picking it up right away. Yeah, but yeah,
Poor Michael Goff. Go.
I have
Go-
no idea.
Could be either one.
I wish you would.
By the
Michael
time
go to
we get to the
Bulls.
fourth movie, he is being so criminally used in Batman and Robin. And in this, like, his presence is perfect. I like him. I love him as Alfred.
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah, no, he's the Alfred they needed for this movie.
Yes.
I just thought of something.
Mhm.
What if Batman Forever and Batman and Robin are all in Alfred's head?
Okay. All right.
As he's dying.
As he's dying from McGregor syndrome, whatever the fuck it is.
Yes, it's all happening in his mind. That's why he's the same Alfred. That's why
so funny.
everything else changes, but he's the same.
He is the constant.
Master Bruce, I thought you were Val Kilmer. Well, now I'm George Clooney. Oh.
That's why Alicia Silverstone, or not, that's why he can be a computer when Alicia Silverstone finds the cave, because she's just talking to his subconscious.
What? Hold up. That movie did a Jarvis before Jarvis.
Yes.
Oh,
He put himself onto the computer and he's like telling her about her suit or whatever. He's having a full conversation.
Okay. So he's dying in the hospital, and it's the sounds of the machinery keeping him alive that makes him think, "Oh, I'm a computer."
Yes.
Is this one of these newfangled computer thingies?
Oh, God. But it's we're all over the place with this. But I mean, I'm trying to think of what like the order of things that have been happening. Like, so let's just go from Vicky being at Batman's in the Batcave. The next thing I remember seeing that I was like, what the fuck, was how small the Batwing looked.
Oh God, it's tiny.
Like, it's this tiny, it's like the short bus of Batman vehicles. Like, when I remember seeing it when I was a kid, I'm like, that thing is amazing. And then I'm watching it now, it's like, there's barely enough room for anyone who'd be over 6 foot to sit in that thing.
Right. It's all very impressionistic. It's not, they're not going for realism for 99% of this movie.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, the
like,
Batwing is there so he can fly upwards and silhouette against the moon and then fall down.
Right.
That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And here's the thing. I wouldn't want them to change it if it means that we don't get that shot.
Yeah, and like the next shot, like the next sequence is in, Joker pulls out like the silliest gun in the history of movies and shoots this thing out of the sky.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
He's a
I'm
very
like,
good
okay,
shot.
longer barrel means stronger bullets.
Yes.
I mean, it's not completely illogical.
It's not
But
stronger
I don't
bullet,
know.
it's just longer bullets. So it just
Mhm.
does more
It's like a
damage
javelin
because
going through his fucking.
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Bruce is like,
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, he gets shot down and crashes after getting rid of the balloons and all the people, which that was something else, and this is just my age. Like, it made me think about the theory of time travel. Stick with me here.
Okay.
So you see a lot of money in this movie, and
Mm.
seeing it, I'm like, looks so weird, and then I'm like, oh fuck, that's because money has changed its look so many different times since I was however old in 1989. I was 35 or whatever, and that made me
You were 55 years old.
yeah, I was one of the guys smoking cigars and playing poker in there. And it then made me think about like, oh well, time travel would be fucked because people talk about, oh, I travel back in time and do this, that, and the other thing. It's like, no, you wouldn't, motherfucker, because your money would look fake to every person you run into in there. That was
They would walk in and be like, "This is Monopoly money. Like, I'm not
exactly.
cool."
Yeah, exactly.
Unless
Yeah.
you're Doc Brown in Back to the Future 2, you're fucked.
Yeah. Well, and this has been my TED talk about why time travel wouldn't work if you have
Yes.
2020 money. Yeah, I don't know. That was was something
that's
I
the
just
thing
noticed.
you want to focus on. That's the thing
Well,
that would
you know, I'm old. I get nostalgic about things.
not space and time moving around you, or the fact that the continents move over time. Not that at
Hey,
all. Or
hey, hey,
the planets
shut up.
move.
Shut up. Shut up. No, so he gets rid of the balloons and the plane crashes, and then it starts turning into the weirdest thing that Batman would ever do, which is take the stairs.
Yeah, just slowly
such a weird
saunter up
decision.
this fucking bell tower with the stairs,
Right.
and just take his time, and just
Yeah.
he's totally cool with a gauntlet of thugs.
And just let
Although,
them, letting them get the drop on him is such a weird non-Batman thing to do. It does not make sense at
Maybe he's
all.
into it. It's like a.
I mean, maybe. Well, so
Weird
here's the thing:
threshold.
there are parts in this movie where I'm like, he's more like Daredevil than he is Batman. In parts of this, where I'm like, he's really into getting beat up. He's really into getting hit and shot. And I do wonder if somebody was like, let's just take everything that we like about Frank Miller stuff at this
Okay.
moment because it's 1988.
So,
89.
so
Yeah.
Michael Keaton's actor secret is that Batman's Catholic, is what you're saying.
I mean,
or he's into
mm,
BDSM.
Yes.
sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
Either one.
the two can go hand in hand.
That's
The two
true.
often do
That's
go
true.
hand in
That's,
hand.
self-flagellation and all that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So he's climbing the bell tower, which I don't understand how that thing wasn't condemned based on the way some of the stuff falls apart in there very easily. Like, there's a point where the dude hits the wall with a large pulley that he's swinging at Batman. Is something along
Yeah.
those lines.
He's
And,
created
like,
a Rube Goldberg-esque device.
and half the wall falls off when he hits it with it. It's like, hey, how is this thing still standing? Like, why has this not fallen on people down below and created a million other Batmen who are fighting against bad construction?
all these kids are just taking up superhero dumb because a piece of a church fell and killed their parents.
Exactly, like a gargoyle fell and destroyed their parents' brains. And yeah, this is the point where the thugs just show that they are 100% in for whatever the Joker is doing, because man, they're just throwing themselves to their deaths left and right, and Batman doesn't give a fuck.
No, I also love that they seemingly have monster closets from Doom 3. Like, he gets to a certain point on the map and they pop out and go boo.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like in Call of Duty. Like, you have to beat up this many thugs and get to this exit, or they'll just keep coming out of nowhere, and you'll have to keep using your weird wrist fighting knife kick guy. Yeah, this is also the point where Batman just starts saying fuck it, I'm killing people. Because that starts
he doesn't even hide it.
Joker is fucking inhuman.
Oh yeah, he brutalizes him.
At first he beats the absolute shit out of him from pillar to post for 5 minutes. Like at some point Nicholson spits up this half gallon of blood.
Yeah, it's a lot of blood.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the whole escape thing where he jumps onto the fucking helicopter. Bruce grappling hooks his foot to a gargoyle and is like, "Good fucking luck, douche."
Yeah.
It's very The Dark Knight Returns. You could
and like I'd said earlier about like he drives the Batmobile into. They're not calling it Ace Chemicals. What do they call it in this? Is it like
Axis
Axis?
chemicals.
yeah.
Which once again backs up the idea that they don't give a shit about any of Batman mythos because Ace Chemical is something they could very easily just be like, yeah, just throw that in there. But nah, who gives a fuck? Regardless,
I feel like Tim Burton heard what that place was through a wall, and he's like, I got it, Axis. That's the place.
When the other dude was
Half
talking,
listening to every script note they give him, he's like, yeah, chemicals, whatever, yeah, Ace, Axis, cool.
He was too busy thinking about a very young Johnny Depp at that point. But yeah, just the fact that like Batman's just like, fuck it, and remote controls the Batmobile into the building and drops bombs in there to kill all of those guys. It's just like, Jesus, man. Like, they might have families. What did they ever do to you?
He doesn't care.
Like, he destroys the entire chemical plant when, like, really, you could have probably just sabotaged. Like, he's Batman. He could have figured out like what bat it was coming from, who was making it, and just shut down the production. Instead, he's like, nah, nuclear option, and just fucking nukes the place.
I mean, he is Bruce Wayne, so you know what he could have done. He could have
just
bought the
it.
factory.
Yeah, and then had it condemned and demolished very quickly.
He could have paid off a city official.
Yeah, and like acquired the chemicals that he fell and study it and figure out what the fuck happened. No, instead he's like, yeah, chemical go boom.
Well, and that tying into all of that, like things he could have done, which would have extended the runtime of this movie. Like, this movie was 2 hours, but I don't understand how it was 2 hours because it didn't feel like it was a cohesive 2 hours of filming. It was.
I actually think that when this movie gets to the end is when it actually starts to kind of fall apart a little bit.
Yeah,
it definitely does.
Because the ending is not like a big bombastic action sequence because you've already gotten like 3 of those already. It's Batman climbing a staircase, beating up an old man, and then murdering an old man.
Yeah.
And then he has a laughing bag on him.
Yeah.
Well, to this day, I don't understand what's happening there.
I guess it was a like, well, in case I die, people won't know I'm dead.
I thought it was gonna be like a bomb or something, and it just turned out it's a laughing bag.
I kind of wish it was a bomb or something like that. When
I was little, I thought it was like a device that actually his signature laugh came from. That it was always this like artificial thing. But then as I was older, I'm like, that still doesn't make any sense because like he's very clearly laughing the whole time. Yeah, he pulls the thing out. It's like, yeah, in case of death, press button or something. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, again, that does feel like a very Joker thing to do, though. To have like a little useless device that only works after you've died.
And all it does is laugh.
It's crazy how he's still intact too when he hits the ground.
Oh yeah, no, he would have exploded like a blood pinata the day he hit the ground.
I do love he has this fucking like Bugs Bunny impact outline. Like the cement is cracked and he's in this this starfish pose.
Yes.
Well, back real quick to him having this device that, as Connor and I both came to the conclusion that it's press button in case of death. Joker went real quick from being like a psychotic gangster to like all of a sudden he has a joy buzzer that can somehow completely burn a human body, but not the tie they're wearing. Like all of a sudden he had all of these Joker-esque toys, but it didn't really go into him going, not that I expect them to show him like building it, but it seems like a real weird break from like, well, I'm this somewhat psychotic gangster to all of a sudden I have all these toys, like a boxing glove on the end of an extender that I only have built to punch a TV.
So I can destroy a TV if I don't like what I see on screen.
Just in case. Yeah.
By then I kind of get it, but the joy buzzer is like, where did you get this? You didn't buy this. There was no Amazon.
When did he have time to make patches with his face on it for his thugs to put on their jackets?
Okay, that's one of my favorite things about his henchmen is that like he becomes the Joker, and not only does he get gadgets, but he has a full army at his disposal immediately. They all have matching outfits, and they all have matching cars.
I mean,
Yes. Yes,
you,
he has
you,
those cars painted in his
you,
colors.
you know exactly why they had this. It's because Warner Brothers is like, we're going to make a mint off the toys.
Oh yeah.
And that's
yeah.
exactly why they had those things like
Uh-huh.
that. So they could be like, all right, this
Yeah.
is your villain character. Like Bob the Thug, the actual action
Bob
figure.
the Goon, yeah.
Bob the Goon, that's it. Bob the Goon, yeah.
I love Bob in this movie, even if I don't know what the fuck he's there for.
He's who is the guy who he directed a documentary about the killing of Fisher Stevens. He looks like low rent Fisher Stevens. Is who Bob the Goon looks like. Like he's Fisher Stevens' like cousin who's like, hey, I'm Fisher Stevens' cousin, give me a job. All right, so you've got Bob the Goon, and why the fuck wasn't that corrupt cop what's his face from the cartoons? Bullock.
Why wasn't he Flask? Yeah.
Oh no, why wasn't he Harvey Bullock? Like why
Or,
didn't they just do
yeah.
Because
and that's a good question. The funny thing is, like, the character of Eckhart feels like he could be plucked from this movie and dropped into any Batman comic, and he would fit in there perfectly.
Yeah.
Right. Did they just not have the rights to either of those two characters?
Warner Brothers owns Batman and all of subsidiary comics. They could have used anybody
now
they wanted to.
Now they do. I think at the time it was a little bit more up in the air what they did and didn't have. I don't really know,
DC has always been owned by Warner Brothers. Like, no, so they could have used anybody they wanted to at any given time.
I mean, not always. No, that was this thing that happened very close to when this came out because they didn't own them in like the 60s. I'm fairly positive about
that. But that was 30 years before this movie came out.
I know. I'm just saying. I'm just saying it wasn't always. If you're gonna say always, that they better have owned them in the 1930s, Eric. But no, I get what you mean. I'm just saying. My understanding is that at the time there were. Like, that's why Brainiac isn't in Superman 3. It's stuff like that, where it's like, that character, we might have to pay somebody who works for us to use that character. There was more like ownership by the people who actually worked at DC. It wasn't just a thing of, well, no, now we just have this character, and we don't have to give anybody any recompensation.
I also think that at the time, like, because this style of movie in this genre was pretty new, like, instead of doing Brainiacs, I can see an executive being like, no, that's too out there. We can't do that. Instead, it's a computer.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe Eckhart was Bullock at some point, and Burton was like, his name's Eckhart because reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of German stuff in this movie, a lot of like German expressionist stuff. So I feel like it was, if I had to guess, it's references to that. I bet Eckhart is like some expressionist director or something.
Yeah, and while we're on the topic of like the gangsters and the criminals in this movie, I want to talk about the sounds the guns make in this movie.
Oh God,
they're so strange because one, they all sound like they're from 1930. It's these loud like
right, yeah.
Like you do. Sorry, real quick. Warner Brothers has owned the rights to DC stuff since 1976.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, I love that Jack kills Eckhart from 400 feet away with a 6-shooter revolver.
Yeah, with a gun from like 1822. Yeah. That I like. What the fuck? And why was Eckhart, like, he's a cop? Why was he using also a 6-shooter at the time? And it wasn't like a Saturday night special. It was like not a Derringer. It was like a revolver that you would see a cowboy using. Like, it made no sense to me why he's pulling that out.
Well, no one had any weapons that were, if they weren't bladed, they were Tommy guns or revolver pistols.
Bob the Goon had one, remember? Because that's the point where Eckhart.
Oh, that's right. He does.
Yeah,
he puts a 45 on somebody.
Yeah, he does. I mean, mind you, 45 has been around for a while, but it was still just like, why? Just why are you doing this?
Yeah, why would you? Yeah, why would you carry a gun that big? It's not practical to carry a gun that big in your coat. Like,
I mean, I think it does go back to something Connor was pointing out earlier about how they like trying to be of every time period and no time period at the same time, but they didn't do a good enough job of doing
Right.
that. That's the biggest problem there.
Well, they should have been more. They should have been more specific. Like some of them should have been carrying Lugers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like guns that are more in keeping and that make more practical sense. Because there are the cops in this, like the low level cops. A lot of them are carrying 38s, and smaller like revolvers. But yeah, it's a lot of the bad guys and some of the named characters. They are carrying guns that, if this movie does take place in a version of 1980, guns that wouldn't have been used for like 100 years.
Yeah.
And if this movie is the 1930s as well, guns that wouldn't have been used for like 50 years. So it's still like, what the fuck is going on?
Well, that and just mentioning the cops, like the point where Gordon's walking into Axis Chemicals and it looks like he has the Gestapo with him. Because of the way those cops are dressed.
They all have puffy jackets and big fucking former police hats.
Yeah.
Elbow length gloves.
Reused Godfather clothing, clearly old.
It just yeah, but I don't know. Like it, all in all, like it's a fun movie, but it's like I said in the chat, like this movie is so inherently tied to my DNA because it was the first huge like comic book movie when I was a kid. So I love it, but I don't really think it's that good. I really don't.
I think it's starting to show its age, but I also think it's like supremely entertaining for what it is. So I think it gets kind of a pass. Because like there's the Jack Nicholson performance, like the fact that Michael Keaton's Batman is a novelty. Jack Palance for 5 seconds. The actor who plays Knox, I can't remember him, but like he's also just kind of like doing more than he should be. It's fun, but especially as a Batman movie, you're like, oh wow, this is so far removed from what we're doing today. Like I couldn't imagine the decisions that went into this.
I would.
No, go ahead, Arlen.
I was gonna say, I think it's a good movie in spite of everything that we've said, but just barely. It's hanging off of the cliff by like 3 fingers, and it's about to fall off. It's not a good Batman movie. It's an interesting Batman movie. It's an interesting take on these characters that I don't really think comes to fruition. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff in here. I just don't know if it all works. So, like,
and maybe that's what my issue is that like there's a lot of great ideas, but none of it gels well enough together to be what I want or wanted out of a Batman movie. Because I get it, like well, no, I don't, because like Superman, like with Christopher Reeve, was the most pure distilled like Superman you could get, I think, and they knocked that out of the park with the first 2 Superman movies. But how do they go into Batman and like just get this, I don't want to say schlubby because that's not Michael Keaton, but like Hunter said, like they get your dad to play Bruce Wayne. It's an odd choice, and I get it. Like Tim Burton is currently in a wheelchair. Yeah, Tim Burton is very much an auteur, and especially at the time. But I don't know. There's too many things that are so disparate from each other that it's like, hey, guy, what are you doing? What are you doing?
It doesn't feel focused. I think despite any other feelings some of us might have about more recent adaptations, I can say that a lot of them are focused. They don't feel like they're trying to do a million different things at once. At least the ones of them that are successful or highly interesting to watch just intellectually. This movie doesn't feel focused enough. It feels like we need to make Batman for everyone. We need to make Batman that people who know that each individually know in very distinct slivers of Batman will be able to appreciate. And we can't go too specific. We can't go down any one particular road with Batman. This needs to be an encapsulation of everything since Batman's creation until now. And I understand how that worked. I mean, it did work for them at the time. It was very successful, and it appealed to everyone. But I think in hindsight, it's the thing of, well, specificity sort of leads to universality, and it creates a piece of art that is interesting, distinct from any other factors. It's something that you can just watch and take in, and take it on its own merits. With this movie, you kind of have to be like, well, I'm watching it because of Batman, or because I have a nostalgic connection to it, or because I'm watching a Tim Burton movie, or because I want to watch a movie with young Michael Keaton. Like, there's all these other factors that lead you to the movie. But I think that if we weren't doing this particular show, and if we weren't who we are, we wouldn't be talking about this movie right now. And I think that that's maybe its biggest flaw, is unless you're sort of in our general sphere of things that people like, this movie's pretty much been forgotten about, outside of our larger circle of interests. And maybe that's incorrect, but like, I'll compare it to a movie that came out in 1991, Terminator 2, still talked about constantly, everywhere, by everyone. It's an ongoing thing that people bring up that is universal, but it's very distinct and it's very specific, and it doesn't need all these other factors for people to pay attention to it. Some similar factors are there, and it is nearly as successful. But on its own merit, it attracts attention and conversation in a way that maybe this movie doesn't.
Very well said. I think this movie's become a novelty, so I think that's why people still talk about it and still gravitate towards it. But also, like, this property and this franchise, as far as like movies go, has come so far that this feels like an artifact. It's a very entertaining artifact, but yeah, there's lots of better that feel super dated. The fucking Prince music is so bothersome nowadays. Because
no, I love the Prince music. I love it.
I love it, but also it's all over the fucking movie to the point where, like, what was happening here?
Well, my thing was watching the movie, I was more waiting for the audio cues of the actors for the songs that I recognized than I was for the actual movie. Like, when I would hear, like, Vicky Vale say something, I'd be like, "Oh, yeah, that's that part in Bat Dance," or "That's this sample in this particular song from the Prince soundtrack," because I feel like that has stuck in my brain more than this movie did.
I can't argue with that.
I can't either.
Yeah. Like, Bat Dance was something that left an indelible mark in my brain forever, just because I'm like, what the fuck am I watching? But it's Batman, so I have to watch it. But what the fuck am I watching? And look at, oh God, I'm 13 and there's girls that are wearing scantily clad clothing. I like this a lot right now. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think you guys have said pretty much everything that I could say about it, is that it's definitely a relic of a time period that it deserves to be seen if you haven't, but also understand that what it did at the time was interesting and revolutionary, but doesn't really hold a candle to what's been done recently.
Eh.
Thanks for that fucking dynamite drop in.
No problem.
Yeah,
I like the movie. It's entertaining. I wouldn't call it like a good movie or anything. I just I really was entertained the whole time it was on my TV.
Yeah, I will give it that. Like, it's definitely not something that I'll watch and be like, oh God, why are we watching this, like a Ghost Rider or a Steel?
Yeah.
But it's definitely not a great Batman adaptation. Like, it just, I don't know. It has a lot of disparate elements that are great, but as a cohesive whole, it's just like, it is what it is. I'm not going to be one of those people that's just like, it's fun, I love it, because fuck that.
Positivity, even if it means compromising your feelings.
No, like, things can be bad and it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. I promise the world won't end.
Yeah.
even though it feels like it is at this point. Anyways,
I think we're all running on empty now, so I think we can get out of here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ernest Scared Stupid just came out, and we had Pissy Miles on there, who's a drag queen, not a transgender woman, who had a brief burst up of notoriety early in this year because she was covering Trump's impeachment trial. There's hilarious pictures of her getting scanned by like metal detectors and stuff, and she's this like big giant fucking explosion of color in the middle of this like drab, political fucking hearing. I had never seen an artist movie before that, and now I fucking love Jim Varney, and I'm so mad he's not around. So, we just finished Trick or Trash, so I don't know, burn through that, and we're rolling into Thanksgiving, which I don't think we have a theme for, and then Trick or Trash, which should probably be pretty good. There you go.
Yeah. I guess it's me. LHP is wrapping up. We have a couple bonds that we'll still be doing, but otherwise, season 3. Yeah, season 3. Wow. Season 3 is coming to a close, so listen to episodes that are forthcoming that are undecided at this moment, so I can't really say anything. But look forward to Octopussy coming out whenever that comes out. And that will be interesting because I have not seen that movie in a long time, and I remember hating it. So, that will be something. So yeah, that's my plug.
Don't follow me anywhere. I'm not.
I love how quietly you said that too. It was very
down.
Most indifferent I've heard you sound.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
He's become indifferent to it. It's no longer like fuck you, don't follow me anywhere. It's just don't follow me anywhere, please. Please,
for the love of God, stop.
Leave me be.
Leave me to my devices. I'm Eric Fedor Chuck. You can find me at Eric_Fedor on Instagram. There's pictures of talking cats and food and comics. I'm on the Phantom Zone talking about things and stuff. I'm also other places on the internet, but don't you dare go there. Don't you go down there. There's bad things down there.
Bad things in
Not down there. Yeah.
There's bad things in that gutter, don't you see?
There's a clown.
Yeah, I've never seen a clown who looks like that. It makes me feel
On that road,
weird.
Pennywise on that road.
There's a parasitic creature that grows in your stomach and comes out your asshole. See?
It makes my overalls feel real tight. Outside of that, I don't really have anything else to add. I would like to mention that I was also in the running to play Batman, but the little wimp Michael Keaton beat me to it. I wanted to have Jimmy Superfly Snooker play my Robin.
Would pay to see.
Yeah.
A fucking heartbeat. Yes, don't give him a wig. Just have him be bald,
Yeah.
with a stupid mustache and the batsuit.
Yeah,
I'm
they
going
would
to get you, Joker.
Joker, I'm tired of your shenanigans. I'm going to be the governor of Minnesota. He would just have paper mache like ears attached to the top of his bald head. He wouldn't even wear the
low
cowl.
effort costume.
Exactly. It would be a t-shirt with the Batman symbol on it. Yeah. Yeah, and then
he just puts bat ears on his fucking Jesse the Body gimmick outfit and just fights crime in that.
But he'd be wearing a black boa too, which would be really weird.
I love it. Give it to me. All right, let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Goodbye, everybody. It's
Everybody.
Eternal Tuesday. Eternal Election Tuesday.
Yeah,
We're stuck in it.
Come on, Georgia.
The first day of November 3rd.
We're stuck in it forever.
None of this will date this episode at all.
You need to go talk to your governor, Connor. I'm fucking sick of it.
Okay, I said it on Facebook. I'm not the Duke of Nevada, all right? I can't just waltz in
and I said, maybe you should be.
I
can't walk in and go.
I don't
But
know.
here's the
anybody else
thing,
from
I
Nevada,
know-
So this is on you.
I know, Connor, if you were the Duke of Nevada, things would get real Escape from New York real quick. Just
I mean, yeah, with intent.
Yes. Yes. Goodbye.
You're a number one, are you? Bye.
Yeah, bye everybody.